Just after that one, and what of Sean Dyche and all of this? Because we mentioned there about the way in which these so-called professionals that we've got and we've mentioned there, of course, not all of them as well. I think we'll have plenty of reaction from those who listen to this on their own opinions on um, who actually did give a go on Monday night, who didn't. Um, I'm sure just off the top of my head as well, people will be having a go at Jordan Pickford too, given the way in which he conceded the goal. But I want to move on here before we have a look ahead to this 6 points of this huge game against Forest. Um, and that's the manager. I know he's been somebody we've spoken about quite naturally. I think everybody's been speaking about him. Well, certainly for the bulk of this season there when we've been down there, regardless of deductions and whatnot. Um, what's his issue playing all of this? What's his part in all of this? Because we've just spoken there heavily about a group of players that have down tools. A lot of them looking like they don't care. To more of a minute set of opinions that we've had towards that. What's Sean Dyche in all this? What's his responsibility in all this? Because you'll still see many people saying, "Well, he's a manager. All he can do is pick the players that go out on the team," which is, traditionally said. It's something that's said historically from when many teams don't play well. It's an easy thing to say if you do like the manager. But surely there's a big part here. There's something going wrong.
Yeah, he's not. He's accountable. Certainly, he's definitely should be held accountable for some of the recent performances and for the run of form.
Mm.
I mentioned a few weeks ago on one of the shows that his predecessors in Benitez and Lampard were sacked after having similar runs of form. I think it's 2 wins in 19 we've had or something like that, which is
First and
obviously
Lampard's, yeah.
yeah, which is obviously why we are where we are. I'm not in the camp of, I know we can't sack him anyway because we just A, haven't got the money, and B, probably no one wants to join us anyway at this late
No
stage.
one to do it.
No one wants to do
No.
it. But I'm in the camp of he probably does keep us up this season. He probably, we said a lot at the start of the season that over the course of 38 games, he probably keeps you in the Premier League. Whether that's satisfied or is good enough for our fan base is another question, to reassess maybe, this time next year if he's still here or going on into the future if he's here beyond then. But he does need to be held accountable. And I think whilst I've sat here all season and said I have sympathy with him for like Paul referenced earlier, the hand he's been dealt, hardly any transfer budget, having to sell and bring in relatively, players on relatively low fees to come in just because we haven't had the money. The sympathy's there. I think where the criticism quite rightly comes in is not just the style of play, but the predictability. And when we were going through the spell we had in December where we put them 4 wins together, I think everyone on the show, whether it was Les, Matt, yourself, Dave, me, Paul, or any, Peter, whoever has been on, has said that can this style of play or can the way we're playing, will it be consistent in terms of getting us results? Is it got legs in it? Is it got, a length, a time period where it will unfortunately, stop being successful? And it's proven to be that way. And I think Everton are the most predictable team in the league to play against. And I talked earlier about the fact that due to us having Coleman and Young on that right-hand side, everything went down our left-hand side. And it was so easy to manage against. You just, like I said earlier, stuck an extra body on that left-hand side and it broke all our play down. I like the fact that we're a good team. We haven't been recently, but a good team from set pieces. I like that stat that we're second in the league for scoring from set pieces. But that shouldn't be our only outlay. That should be a bonus on top of the way we're playing.
Yeah.
We're 1-2-0 up here anyway, and there's a free kick. Everton could get a third here because of how dangerous they are at set pieces. That shouldn't be our only hope of scoring a goal, and unfortunately, it's becoming that way. So he's got to find a way to develop. I know it's a difficult job with the players he's got, but there's got to be some sort of way where the mentality changes but I don't think it will because I think what he will do, he will trust his instincts and he will trust what's got him wins against the likes of Burnley and against, some of the earlier away games we had. And he'll trust his gut and he'll go, do you know what, over the course of a season, this will get me over the line. The trouble for him is I don't think that's going to sit well with Evertonians much longer. And I know, do you know what? We are an impatient fan base, but I think we can kind of be forgiven for that, for the dross we've been served up over the last 5 years. And I think we look at teams around us as high as Bournemouth, but probably in the middle. And I know that some of these teams have got some good players in there, but they've got a bit of an intent when they go forwards. I'm all happy for us playing direct. I'm happy for us playing this what's called nowadays a low block where we counter attack, but we haven't got pace. So we need to find some way of not, we can't play counter attack in football. There's no pace in the team. We've got to find a way somehow of winning points. He might go in with trusting his instincts and going with what he knows. The trouble with me is there's no plan B. There doesn't seem to be a plan B. If there is, I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
because it seems to be when there's a set piece, hit Tarkovsky at the back post and hopefully we get a flick on. If there's a corner, everyone on top of the keeper and hopefully a flick on. If it's open play, it seems to be get it wide, turn back inside, play it to the other wing, then turn back inside, play it again. There's no one who's got the ability, and this goes back to quality, which I don't blame him for. But there's no one in the side with the quality to get the ball into feet, turn, and play a forward pass. We haven't got that. So there is, but it's his job to find a way. And at the moment, in this run of form since January, he has not found a way. He has not found a way to. He talked a lot the back end of last season about mentality. I haven't heard that word from him a long time. There's not a and I did feel there was a little bit of a shift in that. And again, ironically, against Chelsea last season, we saw that. We went behind twice and we somehow managed to salvage a point. We went to Brighton and we pulled out probably the performance of the season. I don't see Everton doing that at the minute. Whether that's to do with confidence, whether that's to do with the players we've got, or whether that's to do with Dyche's outright stubbornness, I don't know. One thing I will change, and this might sound stupid, but I've heard no one talk about this on any shows or really being highlighted that much. And people may laugh when I say this now. I hate this when we go away from home, changing ends all the time and shooting towards our fans. It may seem like a really silly thing for me to say, and a lot of people are probably laughing at me here. But when you're an away fan and you travel all that way, you want the ball coming down your end second half, because it might be that it's 0-0 or 1-1, and we might get a corner and it's in front of the fans and everyone gets on it. He does this thing and he changes, and it might be his little thing in his head where he goes, percentages wise, or it's a little gain that if we make teams shoot away from their fans in the second half, it's a little disadvantage. I think it's a disadvantage to us, and I hate as this might just be me, and as I say, people might think this is a ridiculous point I'm making. I hate that he changes ends every time we're away from home. I used to get frustrated when teams would come to us and they'd shoot towards the Gladys in the first half and then shoot towards the park, because traditionally it's always been down the Gladys Street end in the second half.
Yeah,
And there's
Gladys sucks the ball in. Yeah,
there's that famous saying, isn't there? It's the same for me away from home, and I just think when your fans are miles away, you want them sticking with you right the way through. And it might only be a small, tiny thing, but it does my head in, and I might be alone with that. But he's obviously done it because he thinks it's some sort of marginal gain. Well, it's not worked. So just go back to, go back to how it was. And that's just a little personal gripe I've got. But yeah, in terms of the future, he unfortunately will not last with this fan base if he proceeds to carry on. All being said, I do have sympathy. All being said, I do think he should at least be here till the end of the season. If we go down, who knows what happens. But if we stay up, he'll be given another year, simply because A, we can't sack him, and B, I don't think anyone else would take the job. So for that reason, we've got to stick with him. But he will not last. He will not curry much favour or get much sympathy from Evertonians if the standard of play stays like it is. Because quite frankly, it's been appalling to watch. It's not been pleasant on the eye. And listen, they're going to be asking us for 600 odd quid for season tickets when we go to that new ground. No one's going to want to watch football like that in the new stadium. So I don't know what the answer is. But I'd like to think he's got it in him to have some form of idea to change the way things are. We've not seen it yet. Hopefully we see it, especially in these home games coming up.
where I differ with you with a lot you've said there, Warden, is he's never proven that wherever I've seen him as a manager. I've not seen him play anything different. I don't know if you can go to the well that he owns and see if there's anything else in there. Um, I'm 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 strongly against him now because what you see Everton's situation is, and I'm not just talking about the way we play, deductions, anything like that. Everton are just about keeping their head above water as it stands. If you look at the Premier League, this is trademark Sean Dyche. This is where Sean Dyche has made his career as a manager in the Premier League. I know he's gone down a couple of times with Burnley and he's got them back up because that's the standard in the Championship. That's how teams get back up. He knew that way so so regularly. He was a success at doing that. When Burnley have been in the Premier League, I think they had one season where they got up to eighth and got into Europe. Other than that, the rest of it was bottom half and then relegation fights. That's why this situation Everton have got and will be the reason we ended up getting him last season after Lampard was because his remit as a manager is to keep teams in the Premier League. There's only once when he failed to do that with Burnley, twice when he failed to do that with Burnley. By and large, when he gets up with Burnley, he keeps them in the Premier League. Therefore, when he comes to a club like Everton, who are in a crisis, he should be able to do that. Not saying comfortably, but I'm saying in any means necessary. The problem he has are the means that he has necessary. I'm not talking about the squad that he's inherited. I'm talking about his own management. And in reference to that, when there's nothing else that what you've referred to, Warren, that we're hoping that he goes and gets these different circumstances where we can do something different. We had that relative pride towards defensively. You know, we were up there in the top 3 or 4 in regards to the least amount of goals conceded, goals scored. We're right up at the top of the list in regards to set pieces. That, again, is trademark Sean Dyche. When that's not happening for him, which we've seen recently, which we've seen in this horrendous run of what, 1 win in 16, is it? Something like that. It's around about that number. Do forgive me if I've got that wrong. It 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 proves it's proof, it's fact that it's not working. What's the alternative, Sean? The answer is nothing. You do not have an alternative for this. If Everton don't do the way you've always permanently managed a side, then Everton aren't going to change. And that is what concerns me going into these last 6 games. That is what petrifies me going into these last 6 games. And I think, you know, I've banged on about these last 4 games that we've had. It's now down to 3 if you don't include what's going on in the Premier League. But basically, in the next 10 days, you're seeing where Everton finish in the next 10 days.
I
Because
mean, those next 10 days, they decide our season, don't they?
correct,
I think.
correct.
I think what both you and Wallace said there is absolutely correct. I think when you employ when he came to us last January, as you said there, Dave, it's because we needed someone to organise the defence and to show we didn't lose matches and stayed up. But that mindset has not changed for this season. It don't seem like for this season the mentality will still go out there.
Well, that's it, Paul. You do it. How many games did we have left when he came in last season? What was it? 17 something?
It was just for the January transfer window closed, wasn't it? Yeah, so we probably had about 15, 16, 17 games. And the remit quite clearly then was, right, just keeps up. Don't care how you do it, keep us up. And I think most of the
But then, Paul, but sorry to interrupt again, mate, but then when he's done that, does that give him the permit to carry on with a brand new season for Everton? Because I think that's similar to what sides have done with Sean Dyche. What Leeds did with Sean Dyche last season is, you know, it's emergency time. Bring the man, get him in. He does the job. Everything settles, and you go again, clean slate. Sean Dyche staying on from last season. It's very, very easy to say this now, and people are going to say he earned staying as Everton manager because we didn't go down. And it's hindsight's a great thing. But you know, you look at to where we've got now and the point that he's there again. People will be screaming deductions at listening to this, but I'm eliminating them for now, just simply due to the way we've played and simply due to the fact that we're down, luckily enough, against 4 or 5 sides who are going to get a total of well less than 40 points anyway.
Yeah, and none of the teams was the bottom are going to get anywhere close to 40, Dave. But yeah, going back to what you're saying there, and what I was saying as well, I think you know what you get with Sean Dyche. You're getting defensive solidity, you're getting defensive organisation. Now, we as a fan base look for a bit more than that. We look for creativity. We look for exciting players. We look for people going to unlock defenses with passes, looking for movements. Warren, you mentioned the lack of pace in the Everton team. The lack of pace really frustrates me because every decent team in the Premier League has pace. They can hit teams on the counter attack. We just don't do that. So with Sean Dyche, you'll get defensive organisation. Now, that kind of fell apart at Chelsea, and that's a bit of a worry, isn't it? Because if the one thing you're good at suddenly gets blown to smithereens in an away game like that, what goes through the players' minds for the rest of the season? Do they stop believing in those tactics? I'm not quite sure. I think, in terms of Sean Dyche, any manager will have questions asked of them, given the appalling sequence of runs that we're on at the moment. We've won once, haven't we? Since that away game at Burnley in December the 6th. It's an appalling run of form. And any manager, no matter what the circle of the club are, questions will be asked about them. I think, secondly, you mentioned there's no plan B with Everton, is there? So if System A doesn't work, then we stick with System A longer. The failure to make in-game changes is a huge source of annoyance to me because certain games they're screaming, make a change now. You can see the time the game is drifting away from us, and we just don't make those changes quickly enough. You mentioned on the show before, Nathan Patterson, his career's been destroyed at Everton by Sean Dyche. Isn't it international full back who watches each week while Ben Godfrey gets his place, who's not even recognised as full back. But Nathan Patterson is a regular for Scotland and will be playing in the Euros this summer.
He's fourth place, really, isn't he, Paul? He's fourth place behind Seamus, obviously, and Ashley Young.
And that's if you're behind Ashley Young, then you put them in transfer request on the next morning because that's just not right. So I don't know what's gone on there. I think the failure to bring through young players. You mentioned the weekday about Lewis Dobson, scores to go against Chelsea, has a great game, and then we don't see him. I know he's injured now, but he wasn't pushed on to the next level after breaking through. Then you look at the recruitment as well. Whether this is down to Dyche or Thelbot, I don't know. But you mentioned this before, Warren, as well. I mean, seriously, is Beto an upgrade on Ellis Sims? Is he? Because in my mind, he absolutely isn't. And so there's all sorts of things going on there with Dyche. I think Kevin Thelbot doesn't come through this completely clean because I think his recruitment has been poor. The money he spent on Schmidt, he's made no contribution to the first team whatsoever this season. Beto, massive question marks over the contribution that he's made. And I was listening to Barry Hall.
Is he Mopay as well, by the way?
Yeah, he was Mopay. Yeah, and that doesn't have to raise another question. Why does Mopay score 6 goals for Brentford? This scores 1 goal in 2 seasons for us. And in terms of creativity, I mean, it's kind of gone under the radar, but like Calvert-Lewin, when he hadn't scored 20 goals, is all the big question about Calvert-Lewin. Dwight O'Neill's not scored at 19 goals, and no one's picked up on it. And he was our second top goal scorer last season. Decore's not scored in 8 games. So why aren't we creating the chances anymore? Because one of the big things that everyone banged on about the start of the season, the XG is in our favour. Great, but XG doesn't win you games. I know statistically it should do, but it doesn't. And if our 2 leading scorers from last season, O'Neill and Decore, have not found the net in 2024, then if Calvert-Lewin has scored twice in 20 games, where are the goals coming from? Because there's no goal scorers in midfield. So what's the alternative plan here? Because certainly Decore's not been the same player since he come back from injury. And we mentioned there about Gomez and creativity. Surely Dyche has to find a way of incorporating Gomez's passing ability into that team, because the only minor highlights of the second half was watching an Everton midfielder and Andrew Gomez getting the ball, finding space and passing to a blue shirt and keeping the movement going, because he was the only one who did that. He did hardly get the ball away. So, yeah, I think regardless of what happens at the end of the season, whether we stay or we don't stay, but I can't see Dyche being here next season for a number of reasons. And I think that'll be assumed there's a change of ownership in the summer. I can't see that the new owners are going to want to stick with this style of football, because they don't want to buy into a club where it's going to be another relegation battle again. And we as fans, I mean, I don't know about you two. I'm just fed up of being stuck in relegation battles. I'm sick of these last home game dramas, having to eke out a win to make sure that we stay up. I'm sick of watching all these relegation games on Sky Sports, praying that Liverpool beat Forest or the City beat Forest or X team beats Forest. I want to just relax and enjoy these games, for having a concern about how that result affects Everton. And yeah, these next 10 days are going to be the biggest part in Everton's season. And unless I think realistically, we've got to come out of this with a minimum of 4 points at a minimum, but I think we've got to look to get a lot more than that.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, you're right in what you say there. Every single weekend, I start looking at how Nottingham Forest and Luton have got on before I even refer to our game. And that's the situation we're in. We're going to finish up here, lads, with a look ahead to this Forest game, basically some predictions. But we've got a side coming to us here, Warren, who they're a strange side for me. Forest, they probably shouldn't be in this situation given the amount of players that they've signed, recruited, and ironically being deducted points, which we know all about. They've got a squad that's got some dangerous players against us there, and out of this run that we need, out of the what I would suggest, my opinion is 9 points. You get 9, you're safe, provided we don't get any more deductions, which I don't think we will. Touch wood, but we should, if anything, get something back. Forest are the ones on my list here that we absolutely need to get 3 points against, because if we don't, we're slowly lowering it down to be where this is not in our hands to stay in the Premier League, because I'm really, really scared of going away to Luton. And Ross Barkley, who I've just banged on about this. Ross Barkley have a part to play in Everton's future, whether that's scoring an own goal for Luton or playing like Iniesta like he has all season for them. This Sunday, though, the question I think repeatedly goes to Dyche here. How do you even approach this? Everton on the back of all we're going to do is go there and scream our heads off, as we always do, as the club traditionally needs, as Everton have always been, as Everton fans have always been. Sean Dyche crops things up as something completely different that complements that. A game like this, he just has to stick with what he's got, really, and that in itself makes me think that I would not back Everton to win this.
It seems horrible to say, doesn't it? Home game against Forest.
Yeah,
I think the thing that petrifies me is every team around us seems to have a talisman or somebody there who can propel them when they need it most. And I look at Forest and they've got Morgan Gibbs-White, who's having a great season despite what's gone on with them results-wise. You talk about Ross Barkley for Luton as well, and I think they've had a few others who I know they haven't got necessarily the results, but Luton terrifies me, that away game as well. Crystal Palace have got the likes of Eze in their squad, and
what they've done with the Reds winning for us last week.
Yeah.
Well, I can't bring myself to
no,
say
I
that,
am going that far. I am going that far. Don't worry about that.
But it's every team around us seems to have that talisman, and Paul's stats there regarding, and he's right. Not much has been made of McNeil or Decore, hardly scoring, and David Decore at one point was like a bit of a talisman for us. He was our like go-to who could get something out, and we don't seem to have that, and that's the thing terrifying me. I think it's going to be a horribly tense affair on Sunday. I just hope that this Everton team finds something, and I know we keep saying this and keep asking for this, but the corresponding fixture at the City Ground this season, we were superb. We really were, and I remember thinking at the time we hadn't scored in the first half, and I remember thinking this is going to come back to bite us, and it didn't. Second half, we replicated the performance and we played really well. So you're going on past sort of, I know you can't really do this, but you're going on past performances and past results. We played really well down there, and I think we did all right there last season. We got a 2-2 draw there last season as well. So it will be on us really to try and produce something like that again. But I think the circumstances around it are just going to make it a horribly nervous game. The fact that it's a Sunday at 1:30 is not ideal, because I think naturally it's just Sunday games just are like that anyway, where they're a little bit flat. And essentially it's just going to come down to what the players do and how the fans respond. And we've had this discussion numerous times down, umpteen times about the chicken and the egg situation. Is it the fans who get the players going, or is it vice versa? I tell you what, this Sunday, it simply has to be the players who get the fans going, because I've got no energy anymore for these relegation battles. Paul referenced it earlier, Dave, we've said it, me and you on this show. And I think collectively, we are just all tired and fed up mentally of these constant, like you said, looking at Luton's results, looking at Forest results, looking to see how such and such get on, looking who they've got. I just did that then when you and Paul were talking on my phone. I was looking at who everyone had in the upcoming fixtures. Luton have got Luton have got, who've they got this weekend? They've got Brentford.
Brentford at home.
Brentford. Forest have got City next week at home. I'm
You know
looking at
that
all
more
this.
than Everton games.
Do you know what? I'm trying to permeate all the results in my head and going, does that mean we'll be all right? What do we need there? And it fries your brain.
Yeah.
My head's full of cabbage thinking of Everton and football. And I
So what's your prediction then? What score are you going for?
5-0 Everton. No.
Brilliant.
I think Morgan Gibbs-White's just going to have. I think he's just. He's. Do you know what he's got? What our players haven't. He's got that arrogance and that sort of.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to keep this club in the league. A bit like Richarlison had for us when we had that
I think that's
season.
a great shout. Yeah.
He's got that about him. I'm going to keep this team in this league. I don't think we've got anyone like that, and that terrifies me. So I think. Oh, do you know what? I've said on this show, and it's probably going to get clipped and played back to me, but someone's going to remind me. I've said Everton don't do relegation. I think.
How many drinks did you have when you said that?
Oh, mate, I've said because we just seem to not do it. We seem to always do something, and we've been there before, and history goes with us. I think we scrape a 1-0 win, and I think it's going to be horrible. It's going to be tense. It's going to be, God, it's going to be particularly if we're in the lead and early on in the second half. It's going to be like Bournemouth game was. If we win on Sunday though, we stay up because I think that's a killer blow for Forest. It's probably a killer blow for Luton as well. We may get them 2 points back. Forest may get theirs back as well. I think it's a killer for Forest if we win. And then, like we've said, we can maybe get a draw or another win in the next couple of home games we've got. And that probably keeps us up because I don't think the teams around or below us get as higher points because they just proven they can't win that many games throughout the season. So I'm going for a 1-0 Everton win. I might be wrong. It might be a horrible defeat again. It might be just a horrible 0-0 draw. But I think we get over the line somehow on Sunday and we scrape that. But I'm terrified of Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. And I think it'll be a carbon copy of what we did against Burnley. Hopefully, absolute stinker of a game. I actually got right predicting this. It'd just be the worst thing you could watch in your life. But thankfully, we got a 1-0 win over one of the jammiest goals you'll ever see. Paul, we're just about to finish, mate. What's your quick prediction of what goes on here?
Okay, we go back to what Warren said there about Everton don't do relegation. It reminded me of last night with Real Madrid. All the commentators saying Real always find a way to do it. They always find a way.
Excellent point. Yeah.
I think we will stay on. I think we'll find a way to do it. I'm not totally convinced we're going to win on Sunday. I can see it being a 1-1 draw, but we can't afford to lose the game. And I think it might well be our salvation this season. It might just be drawing at home to Forest, drawing away at Luton, and stopping those two teams below us from catching the points up. And look at Forest's fixtures. They've got an away game with Sheffield United and an away game against Burnley. So realistically, as Warren said, we need to win on Sunday. And I think the win on Sunday more or less gets us within touching distance of staying up this season. So I'm thinking 1-1 because you mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White. I mean, all these other teams have a goal scorer in the side. We don't have the goal scorer. And so you mentioned the Burnley win, Dave. Came from a goalkeeper mistake, didn't it? Without that goalkeeper mistake, but we don't win that game. So so it's the goal scorer that worries me, and also the mental effect on the players of getting beat 6-0 at Chelsea worries me. But one thing that does concern me greatly, if Forest score first, I just think the atmosphere is going to get really, really tense. And I just don't want to be in that situation. So I'm desperate for a win. I don't quite think we're going to get it, but as long as you don't lose, that's the main thing for me.
Well, then we got that easy game at Liverpool, haven't we, a few days later? Well, that'll sort it out. We'll have 4 points no matter what, mate. We'll draw against Liverpool, beat Forest, or the opposite way around. I think we'll get another scrappy 1-0. And I think all of us will start to see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel with all of that. As always, gents, thanks so much for the weekly. Huge weekend coming up, huge game, 6 pointers, all that sort of thing coming up on Sunday. We'll have post-match after that, which, well, win, lose or draw, I think it'll be quite an emotional one. After that game against Forest, then, well, I think the team across the park will be saying this is huge for them. It's probably even bigger for us coming up on Wednesday against them. So obviously loads of coverage before that as well. And if you feel like smiling and if you feel like having a laugh, we've got mailbag tomorrow with Les and his troops answering all the funny questions you can ask us. So feel free to put in what you want. You can throw in the serious ones as well if you I don't know, for some reason, want to keep on worrying about Everton. But try and have a laugh if you can when you're asking them. Up the toffees and hope it's a victory against Forest, and we'll speak to you soon.